Let me start by asking you a question. What do you think I'm going to say next? No, don't answer, but look at what I probably made you do. I made you make a prediction. Predictions are a core part of what makes us human. We predict the weather, we predict the stock market, we even predict whether that job is going to call you back for an interview. Predictions are very important. But I'm here to tell you that predictions aren't everything. Why predicting the future is not enough. So let me tell you about something called the ice cream problem. You might not know this, but if you go to the beach, what you will find is that the more people buy ice cream, the more there are shark attacks. Okay? So this is true story. The more people buy ice cream, the more there are shark attacks. Now, why could this possibly be the case? Why would there be a correlation between ice cream sales and shark attacks? Well, here's the thing. It's not so much that ice cream causes shark attacks, because as far as we know, sharks don't enjoy ice cream. And ice cream trucks can't float. There's that too. The thing is, there's a variable that we're leaving out, and that's the sun. On a hot summer day, people are more likely to enjoy ice cream, and they are also more likely to swim. And if it's really hot, they might swim way too deep out there. So the sun is really a confounding variable between our nice little model of ice cream stills and shark attacks. But this is a mistake we do all the time, don't we? We make predictions based on limited data, freak out and panic, when we're often just not looking at the whole picture or the whole story. One way to think about it is as a machine. So if you're looking at a machine like a car or any kind of machine, really, you might have all these different parts moving together. And if you don't understand what's happening, it's going to look chaotic. So it's going to not make sense. And many people think that life is chaotic. I disagree with that. I think that most of the time, it's just not well understood. But when we do understand cause and effect, then we have something closer to the image on the right where we can map out what is happening. Okay, so there are three levels of this causal thinking that I'm talking about. The first is at the level of the data. So these are just statistical relationships. The next, however, is about intervention. When we take action. This is important because when we just look at predictions and correlations, we often just get passive. We just go bouncing from crisis to crisis instead of taking initiative. So one of the ways we take initiative, there are so many ways. One is through observing nature, natural experiments, like the case of the sun, with the anecdote that I talked about earlier, or randomized controlled trials are the most common case. But the final level is understanding. People think of understanding as something abstract. It happens when it happens, but that's not necessarily the case. By understanding, we're often thinking about counterfactual questions. If A hadn't happened, would B have happened? If you hadn't set your alarm clock in the morning, would you have been late for work? And what these kinds of questions do is that they give us a clearer sense of whether something is causing something else. Okay, so let me give a concrete example in the Green Revolution. So from the 40s to the 60s, one of the big challenges of the time was that population growth was growing way faster than humanity's ability to feed itself. which meant that people were scared of famine. Now you might ask yourself, what has the Green Revolution got to do with the ice cream problem of ice cream sales shark attack? Well, you're going to find out. The thing is, scientists of the time were scared too because it looked like the more they applied fertilizer, the more the plants were not growing, which is not what one would expect, right? In fact, it sounds as counterintuitive as ice cream sales causing shark attacks. But this time, instead of the sun being the confounding variable, this time the variable was the architecture of the plants themselves. So what was happening was that the plants were top heavy. So that meant that the weight was at the top. So if you applied fertilizer, it would just collapse under the weight. Instead, they crossbred the crops and came up with a version that had the weight at the bottom and a shorter stem. So now, if you apply the fertilizer, the crops will grow and flourish. Okay, so this kind of thinking applies in so many different contexts. From there's been evidence on the workplace, marriages, communities, even at the national level and international levels as well. The power of causal thinking is that it allows us to tease out cause and effect instead of relying on correlations that paralyze and scare us. And these have broader ripple effects because it's not just about A causing B. There's something called spillover effects in economics, where A causes B all the way down to Z and beyond. So with this kind of thinking, what I want all of us to do is to take more initiative to look at what you might be missing when there's a prediction that looks so scary. And with causal thinking, you come closer, not just to ask yourself what you think is going to happen next, as I did at the beginning, but you ask yourselves what solutions you can build. Thank you.